Good afternoon, everybody. My name is Lina Stillman. Actually, this is a very happy St. Patty's Day, everybody, for those who celebrate. So today is a very special day because it's one of the first Facebook Live that we do here at Fight for Your Rights in English. We usually interview folks in Spanish, but I'm very pleased that Lincoln RESTLER, who is running he's a candidate for District 33, and as some of you who know me know, I grew up in Williamsburg. I went to junior high school in Greenpoint. So I'm very, very well aware of District 33 issues. I love living here. I've been living here since the mid-'80s, if you can believe it. Some of you weren't even born. And I love living here. And I want to talk to Lincoln because, the issues that we have here in this district are, in my opinion, really unique because we have in District 33 is such a diverse, community. We have Polish community in Greenpoint. We have, of course, the Hasidic community in Williamsburg, and the hipster community, if you will, the aging hipsters like myself. So welcome, Lincoln, to our Facebook Live. I appreciate you being here. I know that had some challenging week, so I really appreciate you being here. How's it going?
Lina, I really appreciate you having me. It's always fun to get to talk to another lifelong resident of District 33. So I am eager to connect and talk about local issues, and really appreciate you giving me the opportunity to engage.
Awesome. How long have you been living in? Are you from Brooklyn?
Born and raised. I like to say born, raised, and always. I grew up in the southern portion of District 33. My folks moved to Pierpont Street in Brooklyn Heights in the 70s when the neighborhood looked a little bit different. And so that's where I grew up through high school. And then after college, I settled down in Greenpoint and have been there for well over a decade.
That's awesome. I went to junior high school, 126.
Absolutely.
John Erickson.
Totally.
It was a crazy time. It was when the pool wasn't really a pool. It's where we used to go and, do all sorts of things. Graffiti, we used to graffiti the whole place. I didn't personally graffiti anything, but it was, Greenpoint looked very different back then.
Absolutely.
But, so yeah, I've been around Greenpoint. I've been around with all of my friends growing up where, a lot of my friends were, Polish people. And, Lincoln, I wanted to ask you, so District 33 really is such a diverse district, right? Incredible the amount of, Brooklyn in general, right? But
yeah.
In terms of tackling the issues in Brooklyn, first of all, what kind of issues what are the three top issues, shall we say, that you are planning on tackling if you were to be elected as council member for our district?
It's District 33 I think it's a disparate district. It's a bunch of different communities that really aren't particularly connected to one another. You've got a large brownstone portion. So downtown Brooklyn, Brooklyn Heights, Boerum Hill into Gowanus, Dumbo is all part of District 33. Then you have the community in South Williamsburg that's primarily Hasidic Jewish, stretching into Bed-Stuy, where that community has been growing. And then you've got the north side of Williamsburg and Greenpoint. And so you've got large Polish communities, large Yiddish-speaking communities, large Latino communities. You have 7 public housing developments with well over 12,000 residents. You also have some of the wealthiest parts of Brooklyn, if not New York City. So the range of experiences, the range of needs is vast. And, never, at least in my life, have I seen such devastation and need across our community. The number of people who are on the brink of homelessness, the number of people who are food insecure and struggling to put food on the table each week, the unemployment rate, which is, well more than twice as high as the national average. We have people hurting right now in our community in greater numbers than arguably any time since since the Depression. So we need leaders right now who are ready to hit the ground running, who have a depth of understanding of our community, and who know how to make government work for us, and who share our stridently progressive left values and are going to bring the types of transformative change that we really need. So for me, my top 3 issues, if I were to try to limit myself just to that, are: 1, I want to help make our district the first carbon neutral district in New York and be a model for Brooklyn, for the city and beyond. We're a waterfront district, and the next big storm could deluge us, and we can't let that happen. And so I proposed a comprehensive plan that it involves legislation at City Hall and also organizing efforts that we can undertake locally to drive down carbon emissions and make ours the first carbon neutral district, tackling the largest sources of emissions in our community from buildings, our electricity, cars, and waste, and really trying to make it easy for our neighbors who want to do the right thing, who want to limit their carbon footprint, and help make it easier for them to make the smart decisions to really reduce our emissions together. Second big issue is to try and tackle the affordability crisis. I mean, Lina, you remember what our neighborhood was like for 30 and 40 years ago. Now it's almost impossible to afford it. We've lost 15,000 Latino residents in Williamsburg and Greenpoint over the last 15 years. Across Brooklyn as a whole, the Black population is shrinking for the first time since the Great Migration because people are being violently displaced. And the gentrification trend is not new. It's been happening for decades, but we need elected officials who are going to stand up to the real estate industry and actually start getting meaningful results. I've proposed a plan called Lower NYC Rent to drive down the prices of longstanding vacant apartments to make them affordable to working families. In our district, which is one of the wealthier districts in Brooklyn, still a quarter of tenants pay a majority of their income in rent. That's not right. That's not sustainable. It's not okay. We have to do better. And so I think we've got to shift from just thinking about housing as a commodity and start thinking about housing as a human right. And so when we have available housing that's been vacant for a number of months, we should be forcing reductions in the rent to make it more affordable to working families. It would require—
How does that work? Tell me a little bit more about, and I'm sorry to interrupt everything, but
No.
I want people to, I know a couple of friends are watching who live at the edge. And, we were talking about the same, I told them to watch tonight because I wanted to understand what the affordability issue is. And I do remember what Williamsburg used to be. And you know what, Lincoln, when I came back, when I graduated college, I couldn't afford to live in Williamsburg. So I had to move in with my mother in Williamsburg. So I know exactly, I know the pain. What exactly, though, when you say, how would that work in practice? You have a landlord who has a vacant apartment. So let's say, for example, okay, let's just say the edge, right? Just for example's sake. And they have apartments that have been around vacant for a while, as they are now, because I happen to know that a lot of people left and there's a lot of vacancies. I mean, New York City has a lot of vacancies right now. And yet there's people who are about to become homeless. How would that practically work? What are the landlords? Tell us a little bit about how that works. How do you envision that happening? Because I really love the idea, and I just want you to break it down for us.
Please. No, I appreciate it. So basically, across Northside, Greenpoint, Dumbo, downtown Brooklyn, we've seen in a range of 200% to 300% increase in vacancy during COVID. Massive increases in vacant supply of housing. And we've seen really limited reductions in the average rental prices, small, but insignificant, inadequate reductions in the rental prices. And so to make it more affordable for working families. So the plan that I proposed would require a combination of city and state legislation. At the city level, we would have the Department of Finance track vacant apartments so that we know that landlords are responsible for registering with the Department of Finance when they have a vacant unit in their building. And if we've had vacancy for an extended period of time, more than 3 months, we would have complementary state legislation that would actually regulate a reduction in the rental amount. Now, we've proposed bringing that down to the fair market rent, which would be about $1,800 for a one-bedroom apartment in Brooklyn. But we'd go through a legislative process and find a solution that we think is fair and meaningful. We're proposing this for larger buildings, so this isn't intended to kind of go after the 2 or 3 family homeowner, renting out their basement apartment or the like. This is intended to really make a difference with our larger housing stock, the new towers that have gone up on our waterfront and the like, so that we can ensure that if housing is vacant for a meaningful period of time, the prices would come down to make it more affordable to working families.
Yeah, I really like that. I was talking to Angela Fernandez, who's running for District 10, and we talked about this. What's that?
Washington Heights, absolutely.
Yeah. We were talking, a couple of weeks ago when she was on the Facebook Live. We were talking about the same issues, and the issues are different yet the same, right? We still in New York City have an affordability. It's a crisis, and I'm glad that everybody that I've talked to so far, Lincoln, has this as their top priority. You mentioned before how we have, we're Latino. We're one of the Latino families who almost got kicked out of Williamsburg. We did it by the grace of God, but most of the Latino families, Latino friends that we knew, had to leave because they couldn't afford to stay. So it's a crisis. It's I really hope that something is done about it, because, as you said, gentrification, it's been happening since the early 2000s, right? You can't stop it, but I believe, those of you who know me believe, I believe that government can help, can do something, and
Absolutely. We can't wait for the market to just solve all of these problems for us. I think that the strategies of the Bloomberg and de Blasio administration have basically been, let's just build all of the market rate luxury housing that we can fit in our neighborhoods and hope that drives down prices. But of course, the opposite has occurred. And I think we need elected officials. I believe that we need elected officials, council members, mayors, who are going to stand up to the real estate industry, not to stop all development, but to ensure that when development's happening in our communities, we're getting significant affordable housing. I believe that 50% at minimum, when a site is being rezoned, when a building is being rezoned, when a neighborhood's being rezoned, that a majority of the housing should be affordable to our families. That's not that, we should see that when development's going up in our community, it's creating good jobs for people in the neighborhood, and it's generating affordable housing that we all can afford. That seems like the bare minimum that we should be expecting from new development that's happening in our neighborhoods. And tragically, what we've seen built across District 33 over the last 20 plus years has been the opposite of that. It's been overwhelmingly luxury and market rate housing that has made our neighborhoods more unaffordable. I think that the Williamsburg Greenpoint rezoning, well over 80% of the units that have been built are market rate luxury housing. In downtown Brooklyn, we've seen the same, over 80% of the units built luxury market rate housing. That's not what lifelong Brooklyn residents like your family need. We need to see more affordable housing get built. And this is a question of political will and fortitude and standing up to real estate developers to actually get the community benefits, the affordable housing, the infrastructure investments that we all know that we need. And that's a big reason why I'm running for city council.
That's awesome. And Lincoln, I just want to go back. By the way, you don't have to limit yourself to the three issues you're going to talk about. We can talk about all the issues, but I wanted just to gauge what the priorities are. I think housing is a priority. You talk about new carbon neutral. For those of you who don't know what carbon neutral is, can you explain to us also what the mechanics of that would be? What do we as Brooklynites would have to do to make our district carbon neutral, which I'm all for, by the way. And I think about it all. I know a storm all the time. It's one of the things that keep me up at night. You know, like a big storm coming to New York, and you know, it's like it's a concern to me, and I know that it's a concern for a lot of people. But what do we have to do as residents of the district, or what do you envision has to be done for us to be carbon neutral? What does that mean?
I love it. Thank you for giving me the chance to dig in on it a little bit. You know, we can't afford to wait. And, you know, I think we need a Green New Deal in Washington. We need a Green New Deal in Albany. We need a Green New Deal at City Hall. But I think that oftentimes the climate crisis feels so big and so scary and overwhelming, and even as if it may be too late, that we don't know how to actually roll up our sleeves and make a difference. And I really believe that at the local level, in just our council district, where we have a couple 100,000 residents, that we can collectively take action and reduce our carbon footprint, reduce our own emissions, and be a model for other communities to think to replicate. Because if we can do it here and we can drive down emissions here, then why can't other neighborhoods and communities and around the city and state and beyond do the same? So we, you know, are thinking about this in two primary ways. One, there's a series of bills. There's legislation we need to pass at City Hall. And two, I want, if I'm lucky enough to get elected, turn my council office into an organizing hub where we are providing kits and tangible actionable information out to small businesses, out to tenant organizations, out to residents, to help make it as easy as possible for all of us to make the changes in our lives that we want to see. We've boiled this down to a 10-point plan of kind of the big overarching things that we want to get done locally that we think can make a big difference. So firstly, we want to try to electrify as much of our housing stock as possible. We should be working to retrofit our homes and buildings across the district. There's new financing available as of later this year for any building with 5 or more units that make the resources available to make these kinds of major sweeping investments to reduce our emissions. 2, we need to significantly expand tax incentives and ease regulations to make it easier to install solar on every viable rooftop. This is something we can do via local law at the city council, and we absolutely must. 3, we want to legalize and incentivize in-home battery and energy storage systems. So basically what this means is when you've got your solar working on the roof, you have a battery storage system in your home so that at nighttime or when it's not sunny out on a cloudy day, you've stored up that energy in your home to be able to power it and help you basically get off the grid. 4, we need to create mass utilization of electric heat pumps by providing low-cost financing to make this a reality. Heat pumps are the future, and they are amazing. 5, I'd like to see us reimagine our transportation network. While 67% or so of emissions come from our housing stock, our buildings, about 30% of emissions come from transportation in New York City. So we need to move away from fossil fuel car ownership and create a protected network of bike lanes. We need to implement more bus rapid transit so that it's efficient and fast to get around via buses. We need to install electric vehicle charging stations in every single garage and in other public settings. And we need to make low-cost purchasing of electric bikes, of e-bikes, something that's really viable. 6, I'd like to see us mandate as a city composting and recycling and implement a variety of initiatives that can actually achieve a vision of zero waste. 7, I want to help encourage all of our neighbors across District 33 who have the means to do so to actually pay more on their energy bills by participating in voluntary renewable programs from utility companies. 8, the Navy Yard has become a real hub for light manufacturing and industrial work. We should make it a hub for green jobs and alternative energy and get solar on every roof, be training people for jobs in the wind industry. 9, our district is home to the second largest number of city workers of any district in New York City. So City of New York government employees. I want to retrofit every city building in our district, electrify the entire city fleet of vehicles, tens of thousands of vehicles. And 10, we've got to prioritize NYCHA, our public housing, for efficiency upgrades and really bring the vision of a Green New Deal to public housing. That's our kind of, at a high level, 10-point plan for how we can actually make our district carbon neutral. And if we can achieve this comprehensively, we can really be a model for others to follow.
That's awesome, Lincoln. I love it. I particularly love making solar panels affordable. I was actually looking into it, and I think I found some by Tesla that are not affordable at all. Even if you wanted to go on solar, or even if you wanted to, a lot of these things are expensive, right?
Right.
And we just the regular folk, is not able to, but it's good to know.
And it's confusing, right? I mean, like, you need a bunch of upfront capital. There's city tax credits, there's state tax credits, there's federal tax credits. It's like, how do you make it all work together to actually make it viable for a working family that doesn't have $15,000 or some huge amount of money lying around? That's what we want to do in the council office, is not just push to make it affordable, not just ease the regulations, but actually make it easy for you. If you're like, I'd like to do this, but it's daunting, to give you the one-page document that lays out, these are the steps you need to take, these are the numbers you need to call, this is how you make it happen, and we can do it, right? And then we'll track our progress and encourage one another to kind of keep up as a community, because it's our collective action as a community that can actually make a transformative difference. Right.
It's a change of perspective, and whatever you're doing now hurts everybody. And if you're, doing all these things to hurt the environment, it's going to hurt you too. So
Totally.
It's also a change in, it has to be sort of a paradigm shift in our mentalities about how to go about, saving the planet, really. Because
yes.
Gotten too dire. But I love it, Lincoln. So 10 things you can do. I love every single one of them. I think it's awesome. So thank you for walking us through the, what, if folks didn't know what carbon neutral was, now you know, and read more about it if you want to do more. So let's go to so we're talking about your top priorities.
Top priorities. I'm sorry, I'm such a talker, Lina. I'm not even giving you a chance I'm not even answering your question. So I talked a bit about carbon neutrality, talked a bit about how we can try and tackle the affordability crisis in our community.
Tell me more. Tell me everything. Go ahead.
And the third big thing that I'd really like to focus on, I'll actually say there's 2 others.
Okay.
One is how we revitalize our small businesses. Our commercial corridors are many of them are ghost towns. We've lost 100 small businesses in Williamsburg and Greenpoint or more since the pandemic struck. On Montague Street in Brooklyn Heights, we've got 20 empty storefronts on just 2 blocks. We need, and I think that, our small businesses aren't just the primary engine of our local economy. They're also kind of the heart and fabric of our neighborhoods. And, fundamental to our quality of life as Brooklynites is being able to walk out of our door and within a few minute walk, be able to access our basic needs, to have a decent laundromat and have a decent butcher and a bakery and restaurants where we can eat and a good supermarket. So I want to be a council member that is pounding the pavement and working to attract the kinds of businesses that we need in Greenpoint, or the businesses we need in South Williamsburg, or the businesses we need in Brooklyn Heights, so that we our neighborhoods are even better than they are now. But we also, beyond just aggressive business attraction work and bringing in those kind of small mom and pops that we want and love and need in our neighborhoods, we also need some new policy tools. I want the city to set up a loan fund to help new entrepreneurs right now, especially women and people of color who often have a hard time accessing the capital to open a new business. This is the moment where the city needs to step up and step in and provide resources to new entrepreneurs to activate our empty storefronts. Two, it's painfully hard to navigate city bureaucracy to actually open a small business. If you're selling food or beverages, you may have to get approvals from 5 different agencies. It can take 6 or 9 or 12 months just from the time you begin seeking approvals to by the time you actually have permits granted and authorization to operate. That is untenable. We need to streamline the city bureaucracy and make it much faster for small businesses, for entrepreneurs to get their businesses open. And thirdly, I think we need some carrots and sticks in our tax policy. I think we should consider a short-term property tax incentive to help small landlords activate their commercial spaces and allow for rent reductions to get new tenants in. But we also need to impose some vacancy taxes to ensure that landlords who are keeping their storefronts vacant for extended periods of time and may have some creative accounting strategies are having to pay a fee, a significant fee, each and every quarter if they are holding their storefront vacant for an extended period, because it contributes to blight, and we need good small businesses in our community. We don't need vacant storefronts. So those are some of the ways that I think that we can help reactivate our commercial corridors and really, help New York City come back. The last area I'd love to just, which I think is near and dear to your heart, Lina, is around worker rights. And, I think this is another area where the city council has done some good in recent years, but where we can go much further to help the workers in New York City. We're a union town, a union state. New York has the highest unionization rate of any state in the country, but just 16% of private sector workers are actually in a union. That is pitifully low. And we should be actively identifying industries that are ripe for unionization, working arm in arm with organized labor to really try to grow labor's ranks. And I want to pass a variety of new areas of legislation to really strengthen the protections for all working people in New York City. And I'd love to share a few with you if you don't mind.
I don't mind. And I've actually been thinking, I work with I work a lot with laundromat workers, with, just laundromat workers. And I've always thought, if these guys unionize, the laundry workers were unionized, a lot of things would change, because in my opinion, those guys are, among other industries, I'm just telling you one that comes to mind.
Absolutely. No, we should, are you familiar with I always forget their acronym. It's LDFS, I think, is Wilfredo Laurenquent ran it. They are some of the industrial and kind of commercial scale laundry workers are unionized with them. But I don't know how much they do with kind of smaller laundromats, but they're a great union. And if there are opportunities for us to help connect with them and for them to do some organizing work to bring more laundromat workers into their ranks, it could be a powerful thing.
Yeah, we just won a vote for the Laundry Workers Association for Ledox cleaners recently. And,
wow.
And that was fantastic, but we need to do it more.
We need to
do it big scale, so I completely agree with you.
Yes. And so some of the things that I'm keen to work on and hopefully, help legislate on. One, we can create the first guaranteed paid time off benefit in New York for workers in the country. In my opinion, every single worker, no matter where you work, deserves a few days of paid vacation time, at least a few days of paid vacation time every year, whether it's to attend your kid's PTA conference or to take a day off for a vacation. It should be a guaranteed right. And we can do that at the city council. We can deliver paid time off for every worker. And I really hope to push that legislation forward.
That's awesome. That's awesome. So I get asked a lot. I get asked a lot about this when people call me, and a lot of them say, "Oh, yeah, they never pay me vacation." And unfortunately, I always have to say, "Well, part time isn't guaranteed, isn't an obligation, or whatever." And I would love to change. I would love to be able to say, "Yeah, you're owed 2 weeks of part time."
Totally. Exactly. No,
I'm getting so excited about this.
I love it. And we can do it. I mean, that's the thing that's so amazing, is that we can make it happen. Another thing that I'm really excited to push, the council about 5 or 6 years ago had great legislation around fair work weeks to allow for, that eliminated on-demand scheduling for retail workers and for car wash workers. But it didn't, there are still industries that are, at the whim of on-demand scheduling. And, if you've got childcare responsibilities every week and you don't know your schedule until the Friday before or the Saturday or Sunday before, how can you plan and prepare? How can you manage? It's impossible. And so I think the Fair Workweek legislation is a great model that we should really be working to expand so that every worker knows their schedule a meaningful period of time in advance. Another area that where the council has recently made some strides that I think we can go much further is around just cause protections, to ensure that workers can only be fired for legitimate reasons. We've seen there was just some legislation passed for fast food workers, but I don't see why that's a benefit that should be limited to fast food workers. It should be for all workers. And so how we expand just cause protections to eliminate kind of unilateral terminations of workers for no real reason is an important area where we can expand worker rights. I'll just do 2 more for you, and then I'll stop.
They do that in California. Isn't that a California thing?
That's right. They've made some real progress on that in California, and we can absolutely do it here in New York City. It's something that the city council can push for, can pass via local law and guarantee that protection to our workers. Another area where I think we should be doing more to protect workers is kind of similar to how we recently have new legislation that guarantees a lawyer if you're a low-income tenant who's at risk of eviction. We should be funding city contracted labor attorneys to provide similar protections to workers who, may be subject to wage theft or other areas of abuse, and provide. The city should fund attorneys to protect those workers so that their rights are properly defended. It would be a significant investment from the city, but it would, I think, send a powerful message to employers who take advantage of low-income, immigrant workers. They would know that there's going to be a lawyer stepping up on behalf of that worker next time they try some funny business. And I think, really kind of reset the power dynamics between workers and employers in New York City. And
the Department of Labor is there for that, isn't it? But the Department of Labor, in my opinion,
they're understaffed. Their investigations take forever, right? And I don't see why. And I think that we need far more support for working people to ensure that their rights and protections are upheld. Because often it's not that we don't have the right laws on the books; it's that nobody protect and defend and enforce them. And And I think if we were to guarantee labor attorneys for workers who are being abused, the power dynamics could shift pretty quickly.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. I have always thought that, the reason why these workers are often so abused and, they, afraid to come forward with their, labor abuses, it's because they don't know that there are people out there to help them. If they did have somebody that they
like you.
Yeah, I mean, I would volunteer to do it. I mean, I used to volunteer, even before I went to law school, I used to volunteer for this causes. And I think,
no, but this is the work that you do. It's not volunteering, right? This is your work. This is what you do every day, is defend those struggling workers who are being taken advantage of, and give them and fight for their rights and protections. I mean, and forgive me if I don't hope I'm not misrepresenting, but was certainly
no, you're not. We do, here, what I do exclusively is I help, most of my clients, majority of them are undocumented workers, that are being exploited. Unfortunately, I've had to go after a lot of our local restaurants. I don't want to do it, but somebody's got to do it.
That's right.
Someone's got to protect the rights of the little guy. And what happens a lot, Lincoln, precisely to your point, is that they think that they're going to need money to see an attorney, right? So if we give them this possibility of like, look, this attorney, this labor attorney is not going to cost you anything, then we might perhaps start tipping the scales in, not even in their favor really, because an employer is always going to have more of an advantage, but to stop the abuse, really. I mean, I do this for a living, and I'm telling you, it's not fun to watch what happens to these guys. But anyway, so that's awesome. You're the first candidate that has this as a priority, which I love, and it's not surprising. That obviously we have to take care of businesses, right? Because if businesses go away, then they don't have they're not going to have the jobs for the people to work at. So you got to take care of everybody, but I appreciate that that you is a top priority for you are working people. So yeah, working people. Anything else? Any other things that you haven't told us about? LinkedIn?
No, those are. I mean, look, the one other thing on worker rights that's really important to me that we can also do via city law is allow for every worker in New York City to have a retirement security account. And we should be creating a portable benefit account for retirement security that every worker can be investing in, so that we're helping and making it easy for people to plan ahead. And, the way work has changed so much, fewer and fewer people have a pension, let alone a 401k. And we need to make that readily available, and we need to encourage people to do it. We need to make it easy for people to do it, so that hopefully people don't need to work long into their senior years, right, and have the ability to actually retire. But if you're not planning ahead, you're not preparing, it's impossible. And so it's something that I would like to see us do via city law, and absolutely believe that we can and should make it happen. It's broadly to tackle the affordability crisis in New York partly means ensuring we have enough affordable housing. It partly means ensuring that you have decent commercial goods in your neighborhood that you can afford to buy. And it also means that you're protected in the workplace, and that you're compensated fairly and have the necessary rights and protections to sustain your job. And so, thinking across those areas for kind of how local government can maximize its power to defend working people and lift up our interests. That's the agenda. And that's why I'm running, and why and what I hope to do if I have a chance to serve.
That's awesome, Lincoln. I love it. I love all of it. I have to say, yours comes closer to the agenda that I would imagine we as Brooklynites in District 33 would like to have to tackle all these issues. And, like I said, I've been, in Williamsburg for as long, I don't know how old you are, I'm pretty old, but I've seen it, I've seen how it changes, and I want everybody to have the same opportunities that I did, even though we almost got kicked out of Williamsburg. My mother actually ended up getting a low-income apartment somewhere, which is how I was able to go to law school. So, everybody needs the opportunity. Everybody needs a chance. And, if you give people a chance, they will, they will come through and they will be able to help other people. Finally, Lincoln, I want to ask you, I know what I love about living in District 33. What do you love? What are the things that you love the most about being resident of Greenpoint? Growing up in Brooklyn, what do you love? Where do you start? Let me count the ways.
Yeah, no, I love everything about our community. I can say with a degree of certainty, like, this is not just where I grew up as a kid and where I've kind of spent my 20s and 30s. It's where I'm going to spend my whole life, and feel deeply rooted here. Also feel deeply grateful for the community in Brooklyn Heights that helped raise me, and as an adult, the community in Greenpoint and kind of the North Side that have taught me how to become an activist. And I think that is the thing that I love most about our community is it's a DIY community that when we see a problem, we roll up our sleeves and we do something about it. And, whatever the issue may be, I can count on our neighbors to be kind of ready to take to the streets and ready to organize and ready to push back and ready to make our voices heard. And, whether it's, the way that, people started to do weekly garbage pickups when sanitation pulled back services to try to keep our streets clean, to the mutual aid efforts that have blossomed that, provide resources to people who are living on the streets. Or, we created a whole new composting infrastructure when the city ended the composting program earlier last year, and so much more. And it's very much kind of the ethos of the community. And that's how I think about, like, that's how I approach this work, is to, when I think of myself as running to be the neighborhood problem solver, and to be the guy that will run through walls to try to make our community and neighborhood better. And I know in living here, and I know our community, that that you're like that we're in this together, and that together we can hold the powers that be accountable, and no fight is too tough, and that we will kind of get the outcomes and get the results that we deserve, because we're willing to actually put our bodies on the line and make a difference. So it's a little amorphous of an answer, but
no, it's perfect.
But
I remember you talking about this reminded me of Williamsburg circa, I don't know when it was exactly, but it was Williamsburg circa 2001, when we thought Starbucks was going to go where Fabien's Cafe is, and everybody had we all had such a huge problem with Starbucks that everybody started protesting in front of it. Turns out it was Starbucks, and then and then of course what happened. But you're right, it's a community that's always stuck together, and it's an activist community for sure. Even the the Hasidic side, the Hasidic side is they've got their activists there too. you know, and they also fight, you know, fight for their side of Williamsburg, I guess. If you will.
Right. No, you got to respect. They know what they want to see from government, and they know what they believe are in the interest of their community. And you know, I see my role as, if I'm lucky enough to get elected, is as a coalition builder, as a bridge builder, is to try and help everyone understand one another's perspectives, find the common ground, and work toward real solutions. And you know, if I'm lucky enough to represent that community too, then you know, I'll always listen. I'll always be respectful of where they're coming from, and we'll try when necessary to, or kind of when appropriate, to work toward compromises that I think we collectively may need. And you know, that's the job. You know.
Right. No, yeah, I meant, you know, that community, they know what they want, and there's activists there, and I'm sure, you know, when I was talking about the big diversity that we have in Williamsburg, I'm sure you know the issues that everybody, you know, sort of like everyone's fighting for. You know, for example, I know that Williamsburg, for example, we wanted bike lanes, and we were at odds with that, what that community wanted, right? As far as bike lanes were concerned. So it's a community that it sticks together, but it's also a community that has to deal with the fact that we're all here, we're all in this together, and we now have to start helping each other and seeing common ground. So it's, you know, it's great.
No, and you know, even on that issue, we've seen some progress, right? Where, you know, a dozen years ago, there was kind of an orientation of no bike lanes through Williamsburg. Now we have a variety of painted bike lanes in Williamsburg to kind of, and we have, you know, the protected bike lane on Kent. And how do we expand that and find, you know, workable solutions for more protected bike lanes through the South Williamsburg community is something that I'm looking forward to working on.
Right. And it's another way of, you know, reducing carbon emissions, right? To use your
Absolutely.
So, Lincoln, thank you so much. I don't know, is there anything else you'd like to say? I know that you talked about your, is there, I don't know, honestly, I haven't checked at a lot of other candidates, but I know that you told us about your platform. Tell us briefly what differentiates you from, you know, if people are going to work for the, vote for, I'm sorry, they see your name on the ballot and they see a Democrat. You are from the Working Families Party, correct? You're running
That's
on
right.
that.
So
And tell us a little bit, for people who don't know, I know because I know, but for people who don't know what the difference is, tell us what the difference is between, you know, the candidate who's on the Democratic line versus you for the Working Families Parties.
yeah, I you know, sadly in Brooklyn, you know, we've seen a lot of corruption in our Brooklyn Democratic Party. You know, many of the recent leaders of the Brooklyn Democratic Party have been indicted on charges of corruption.
Vito Lopez, right?
Vito Lopez, most notably, was one of the worst of them all. You know, and I think across our national politics, we see too many moderate conservative Democrats that are failing to demand and fight for the transformative changes that we really need. And, you know, the Working Families Party has long been a organization that is fighting the status quo, that is fighting for true progressive change. And so I'm profoundly honored to have their support. I'm profoundly honored to have the support of our public advocate, Jumaane Williams, our Congresswoman, Nydia Velázquez, who's been a mentor of mine, new kind of rock star state senators, Julia Salazar and Jabari Brisport, Zephyr Teachout and Cynthia Nixon, our last two kind of left candidates who took on Andrew Cuomo have both endorsed our campaign. We've been endorsed by a dozen organized labor union, or a dozen labor unions, from the nurses to the teachers to the CUNY professors, to the building services workers and many others. And and many leading progressive organizations, in addition to the WFP, New York Communities for Change, Vocal New York, Make the Road Action Fund, and many more have endorsed us. And I think we're emerging as the consensus progressive kind of choice in this race. And I really hope that we can be successful in the Democratic primary on June 22nd. It's going to be an open seat with 8 candidates running, so there's a lot of choices. But I really believe that I'm the candidate who's rooted here, who knows this district like the back of my hand, who understands the issues inside and out, and who's putting forward the kind of progressive vision for change that we need. And so I'd be super humbled for anybody who's in the 33rd or anybody else who's watching who might be interested in getting involved in our campaign, to have your support. It's going to be a fun ride for we're just over 90 days out. So it's 3 months to go. And
oh my God, 3 months until June. That is insane. Well, then again, it's been a year since the pandemic. Tell us tell us, Manuel is going to put on the screen your website. What is your website? Where can people go? If people want to,
people can go to,
if they want to donate to your campaign. I know that you are not accepting donations from, big machine donors. You're not accepting donations from a lot of people, but you are accepting donations from, regular folk, District 33 residents. Tell us where people should go, where, if you need volunteers, what should people know if they want to get involved in your campaign?
Well, thank you for that, Lina. It's very gracious of you. You can go to lincolnforcouncil.com. It's Lincoln, FOR council.com. And you can sign up there to get on our email list. You can sign up there to volunteer. We're lucky to have all of these endorsements, but endorsements don't vote. It's up to all of you and to our neighbors. And the single most important way that we can determine whether we're successful is how many volunteers we have on the campaign and how many people are making phone calls to engage our neighbors and asking them to support us. And so if you're interested, we do phone banks 3 nights a week, but you can really phone bank anytime that's convenient for you. And I'm out at the farmers markets every weekend and out in front of supermarkets and other places around the neighborhood. As soon as my quarantine wraps up, I'm still in recovery from COVID, so I apologize if I look like I just woke up from a nap. But that's the way to get involved. It's and we'd really love to have some more volunteers on the campaign and would love to get new people involved. So please, check out our website and sign up and make it happen.
Well, thank you for everybody out there. I know a lot of my friends today had asked to see this program. A lot of my friends who live in District 33, and they really don't know the issues, and I encourage them to look at everybody and see what issues they care about. I care about these issues, Lincoln, and I thank you for being here, and I thank you for really just caring about what happens to District 33 the way you do, because I'm telling you, no other candidate had ever, and I've talked to a few of them this month. I really love hearing that there's someone out there, that there's a candidate out there that cares about workers' rights, which is, as you mentioned before, dear to my heart. I feel strongly about it. I come from a working family. While my family works, they're all low-wage workers, and so I care very much about these issues. And I have a lot of friends who are delivery boys in Williamsburg, who are, just working people in general in our district. So I loved hearing about this. Thank you so much for telling us about it. I hope that people go out there and vote if they do care about these issues. They care about living in a society that is fair, that is just, that cares about the environment, that cares about the dignity of people living in decent homes and not being living with the fear that they're going to get evicted at any time. Then go out there and vote, you guys. Okay. And again, thank you so much, Lincoln, for being here, and people who want to volunteer, please check out Lincoln's website or donate to his campaign or sign up for the phone bound. Okay. Thank you again, Lincoln.
Thank you so much, Lina. This was an honor. Thank you for everything you do. And, you know, if I can ever be helpful in any way, please just let me know. And happy to share my contact information on the Facebook Live for anybody who has any questions for me or if I can be helpful in any way.
Awesome. And likewise, if you ever need anything from us, you know, do let us know. We're here to help.
I really
okay, bye everybody, and happy St. Patrick's Day if you celebrate.